Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whenever you're listening to this. This is To Raise a Child. I'm Nisha.
I'm Robert.
And today we're going to talk about what is considered an uncomfortable subject for most people. It's not uncomfortable for us for the most part. Well,
It's not uncomfortable for me.
yeah. There's more times where it's uncomfortable for me, but not for you. We are talking about sex. And specifically, your sex life after you become a parent. And the pros and cons of still having, or not still having a sex life, but maintaining your sex life after you have children. Because it can be challenging.
It's challenging.
It's challenging. Everybody, especially if you have children, has had sex. Obviously, you have to have sex to have children. That's how you procreate. So, it's kind of a necessary topic to talk about. And we're going to get uncomfortable here.
Like you already are.
Yeah. But, okay, you've been a parent longer than I have, obviously.
Obviously.
So, do you think there are any positives to having sex as a parent? I mean, outside of procreation? Like, the change of the sex life, I should say. Are there any positives in the change of the sex life?
Well, it's a positive and a negative. Because it's positive and negative for the same reason. You don't get to do it as often. So it's negative in the aspect that you don't get to do it as often. But it's positive in the aspect of it makes it more important. And it means more, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, I see what you're saying. But it's kind of like ice cream. You don't get it all the time, but when you do, you enjoy it.
Basically.
All right. I think I like that logic. But yes, it does suck. And if that's your only positive, we could just hop right into the negatives of the change.
Well, I mean, that's not the only positive. I mean, because me being the way that I was, it kind of calmed me down for a little while.
Well, kind of.
That was not always my policy. I was kind of a womanizer almost. Shut up.
Just saying.
And I'm not saying that to toot my own horn. It was just one of those things. Like, yeah, I was not I didn't believe in monogamy for a very long time. In general.
Yes, we've had that conversation.
And I don't necessarily now, but I don't want to be with anybody else, so it's just like, nah, I don't know. I understand polygamy and polyamory and all that fucking shit. It's just not for me.
Well, there you go.
And I'm not Mormon, so.
I don't think the change, outside of it, like you said, that it is more of a special thing when you get the time to have sex as a parent. But other than that, I don't think there's really any positives to the change in the sex life. Well, I guess you have to become more creative, maybe. You kind of gotta do things in an unconventional way.
Like in the back of a Volkswagen?
Exactly, in the back of a Volkswagen. But outside of that, there's more negatives than positives when it comes to the change in your sex life, I think.
Okay, so what are the negatives?
Like you already said, it's not as frequent because at the end of the day, it's like we've done all this shit and, we've stressed about whatever we've stressed about that day. If the kids are acting up and, we're upset or angry or pissed off or whatever about them, acting the way they were acting or, just stress in general. It takes away the want.
The desire.
Yes. To have sex. And just being tired in general since we run all day. Like our day does not end. Our day starts at 5 in the morning and does not end until at the earliest. Yeah. At the earliest 9 o'clock at night. And it's just...
And then by that time, we're fucking exhausted, too. So it's just like, we lay down in bed, it's just...
We're done. We're absolutely done. It's just like, love you. Good night. See you in the morning.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. But it's just, you start to lose that part of you, a part of, that sexual being that you once were. And that's a big negative, I think, because of who you are is your sexual identity. And I don't mean what sexuality you identify with, being gay, straight, bi, trans, whatever. I don't mean that kind of sexual identity. I mean that the person or part of you that was a sexual being at one point in your life. I mean, obviously everybody's been a sexual person.
That's not true.
Some more than others.
Yeah.
But you start losing that because we've talked about, just because you're a parent doesn't mean you're not a person anymore. You still have hopes and dreams and desires and whatever. And that, I think that's a big thing, is that as people start to lose that part of themselves as they get older, as they have children, as they have more children, because we have 4 and it's exponentially more difficult to, maintain that part of yourself, because you have to not only worry about one child, you have to worry about, like in our case, 4 children. So it's not just one person we have to maintain. And it's very difficult to get around that and to drop that parent part, to be like, hey, let's...
Well, we're always parents, no matter what.
This is true.
But that goes into getting creative.
Yes.
Like you were talking about a while ago. Okay, yesterday, prime example. Don't want to get into graphic detail, but I was in the shower. Things ended up happening. Logan was self-contained. He was minding his business. Whatever. We could lock the door and fuck around for a little bit, basically. And it's just, you have to find a balance. And that's the hard part, especially for us, because we don't have as much of a
support system,
I guess,
or a network. I mean, we have
a network and stuff like that, and a support system, but it's just, we prefer to be the hands-on parents 24/7. That's just the way we are.
And sometimes that might be to our small detriment,
No, it's definitely to a detriment, because we take care of the kids more than we take care of ourselves.
Definitely.
But, I mean, it's just, you got to find the balance. And that was the balance yesterday. It was like, we just said, it was one of those spur-of-the-moment things. Nothing was planned. It just kind of happened. It was like, oh, we still can be like this.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that's another negative, is that you basically have to plan your sex for the most part. You have to plan, okay, we have to wait until everybody's asleep. And then, if we're still awake, then we can have sex and we can mess around and,
And do adult things.
And do adult things. But sometimes I think that takes away from the passion.
The spontaneity of it.
Yeah, like it takes away something.
The lust
where it has,
aspect of it.
if I have to write it down in my planner, which I really don't. I don't
No.
write sex down in my planner. But when it feels like that, where it's like, okay, 6 o'clock is dinner, showers are at 7, bedtime for the younger ones is at 8:30, sex at 10. Like it kind of takes something away. Kind of. Not totally, obviously. But I feel it kind of takes a little bit away from it, where it's like, okay, we gotta wait. We don't have that, I want it now, I can have it now.
Well, we're not single with no kids.
Well, I wouldn't want to be single, but...
No, I'm not saying that, but that's what you're equating it to, essentially.
Yeah.
Because whenever you're younger, you can find somebody at a bar and fucking just go home type shit. You can't do that as an adult. Because you got to worry, well, the babysitter's at the house with the kids. Not in our situation, I'm just saying in general. The babysitter's at home with the kids, so even if you're a single parent, you still have to worry about the kids, or are the kids with grandma, or whatever the fuck situation may be.
Being a parent and having to worry about all we worry about,
It's ridiculous.
It's all consuming. Like, everything you do, including sex, doesn't revolve...
It does revolve around
It does,
kids.
okay. It revolves around your children. Obviously, you're not thinking about your children.
No, but you have to worry about, are they asleep? Are they going to get up? Is this going to be the night that Kaylee has to go to the bathroom 5 times in the middle of the night?
Or is someone going to have a bad dream, or a nosebleed, or
is Logan going to talk in his sleep, or whatever the situation may be?
Are they going to wake up and hear us? And that's another thing. I am on the vocal side of the spectrum when it comes to sex.
You're not a screamer per se.
No.
But
I'm not
not
quiet.
A quiet person.
And that's another thing. It's hard to be the sexual being, the person that you were once upon a time.
Whenever you have to be reserved all the time because you're a parent.
Yeah. You know, you can't be as loud because you're going to wake the house up. And that's not a good thing because then that causes therapy sessions when they're older. Because who wants to listen to your parents have sex or walk in or...
Ugh.
That's just gross. Ugh.
I never went to therapy for it. I'm just saying. I turned out, okay, yeah, they probably need therapy.
Yeah, and we don't have the kind of money to pay for their therapy. And that, you know, you talk about being reserved, and that's another problem. As a woman, as a mom, because I know that as a male or dad, you don't necessarily have the stigma of being a sexual person and it being a negative thing. That's more of a woman thing.
That's not true. I've been stigmatized with that very much.
I mean, as a whole, in general.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I've been told point blank I was a whore.
Well, you are, but...
I am not anymore.
Well, no. Not,
you can't
not
say everybody's had their whorish
Yes, everybody...
times.
Okay,
Granted, most of them weren't married whenever they did it, but...
Oops. But yeah, I still... I find it especially hard because I can't... let go sometimes, and I feel that I have to be more reserved, or that I have, you know, I can't be as sexual. Obviously, you don't want to walk around, you know, being a slut in front of your kids, but, you know, at the same time, you feel you have to be more reserved and be more conservative just in general because you're a mom. And I feel like there should be a balance, but it's hard for me to find that balance where it's, you know, your mom from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. and then you can be you know, whoever you want to, you know, in the night hours. But it's hard to flip that switch of, okay, it's time to be a woman again instead of a mom. And have you ever struggled with that? Or is that just like a woman thing or a me thing? Not even all women are all moms.
No, it is a woman thing because not my first marriage, not my first child. It is a thing. It's where it's hard to turn the mommy mode off, basically. And you're constantly, especially with your first child, you obviously have 3 that are not yours.
Yes.
But with Logan, it was a little bit different. And it was that first child mode that kicked in with you. To where you were always constantly worried about him. And you had to make sure that he was taken care of and certain things get pushed to the wayside. Same thing happened whenever Chris was little. It was a lot of the same. You're just constantly worried about that and you start neglecting your spouse, and that's not just the woman that does that, it's the dude that does it too. With me, Logan was the 4th one for me, so it wasn't the same situation.
Wasn't your first rodeo.
Basically. But it does happen. You know, you start focusing on other things, and then not just the sex thing, but everything kind of falls to the wayside after that because you're concerned with the kid.
And that's a big concern for couples, I think, in general, is that
it should be.
It should be, because you need to maintain that part of your relationship. No, sex is not the
end all be all.
Yeah, that is not the sole part of your relationship, or it shouldn't be, because if it is, then you're in trouble. But at that same time,
it's a very important part of the relationship
to be physical.
If you're not compatible sexually, it's never good, because that means somebody's going to be unfulfilled, unsatisfied, and then that's when extramarital shit happens.
Or if they don't,
which I mean, a lot of times that's not a problem, but in general, that's not typically a good thing.
Well, yeah, that, and or they don't cheat or do anything else, and then they're just miserable.
And they're bitter, and it's constant fighting because of it, and blah,
constant
blah, blah.
fighting.
There's so many different ways it can go.
Oh, it's not fun. I don't think it would be fun. Doesn't sound fun. It's just, we've talked about, as a parent, you're still a person. You outside of, yes, being a parent is very consuming. That is the most rewarding and difficult, stressful thing you'll ever do. Period. I don't care what anybody says. Being a parent and creating life and being responsible for raising future adults is completely, there isn't even a word, I don't think, for as stressful, and it's just a mixed bag of emotions, and it is all consuming. But outside of that huge responsibility of creating people that are going to be here after you are gone, you still are a person. You are still a man. You are still a woman. You still have desires and needs and wants, dreams, hopes, if you are not completely jaded by now. Like, you have...
I'm jaded and there's still things I want to do.
Yeah, like, you are still a person. And you are still a person who has sexual fantasies and desires, and you want to be sought after, not necessarily by the masses, but you want your spouse.
I think that's part of it too, though. It's not like you want to fuck everybody, but you want to be attractive to somebody just besides your spouse, or besides just your spouse. I think
maybe. I don't know.
I mean, I don't think about it on a regular basis, but I would figure that. You know what I mean? Because like we've had that conversation where if somebody says, "Oh, hey, you look cute" or something like that, it means more. Because I say it all the time to you specifically, and you're just like, "What the fuck ever."
I do not say "what the fuck ever." I say thank you.
I said you're like "what the fuck ever." I didn't say you said that. But it doesn't hold the same weight. Or if I say an outfit looks good on you, it doesn't mean anything to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but other people's compliments don't mean it. I'm awkward when it comes to compliments.
It does hold more weight to you. And I've noticed that. That's not a bad thing. I'm just saying that
I guess because maybe I think you're biased. Like, yeah, he married
absolutely,
me.
But that's what I'm saying. Like,
maybe, yeah.
It's not just you want to be sought after by your spouse. You want to be wanted on the open market, basically. I think there's something inherent in the back of our reptilian brains that does shit like that.
Maybe. But, so as a parent, you still have to nurture that part of your being. I mean, it's just like, we talked about self-care. You have to take time.
You're talking about self-care and sex. I just want to point that out.
Well, if you have to masturbate to, kind of maintain part of that as well as having sex.
I do think that's key. I think that's important for a lot of people.
See,
you're not big on masturbation.
I am not, and I never have been.
Until recently.
That thing is a godsend, and I'm not even religious.
It's a Hitachi one. If you don't have it,
get
one.
Get one. Just get it. Just do it.
But it is. I think that's important because the masturbation in general makes you a more sexual person. I think, and I think that's why guys are typically more sexual than females. Not that they don't have a sex drive, it's just we're more overtly sexual because of masturbation. Because everybody's always like, oh, well, guys fucking jerk off all the time. There's something to that. We do jerk off all the time. It's not a random occurrence where it's like, oh, I jacked off for the first time in like a month. No guy's ever said that. Unless they had some kind of surgery where they couldn't. And even then, they're pushing the boundaries of when they can do it.
They're marking it off on their calendars.
And then they like get to where they're like 4 days away from when they can. And they're like, I think I could chance it. And then they end up fucking something up. Because that's just the way that we're wired.
That would 100% be you. You'd be like, I can't do what till when? Oh, no. We're going to have it.
No, I'd have them induce a coma just so I didn't. Like, no. How long do I need to be out? Okay, yeah, just set me out. I'm fine. Put me in cryostasis like Bucky or some shit. I don't know.
We would have to do like the cone, like when you take your pets to the vet.
That wouldn't work.
And the cone.
I'm a filthy MacGyver. Give me 2 popsicle sticks and a rubber band and I'll find a way to fuck it. It's just... Just because you take away my hands doesn't mean I'm not coming, period.
Think about it really hard.
No, that doesn't work. I've tried that. And with as much of the meditation and all that hippie shit that I'm into, it didn't work for me.
It ain't gonna work.
It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work.
Maybe you just haven't reached that level yet.
No, trust me. I've reached a lot of fucking levels coming, and it's not that one. I have tried. Because that transcendental meditation, that shit works, and it's real. I know that. But that just sitting and focusing on it, like, I'm too visceral. I need touch. I need stimulation. I need...
Another person.
Well, not necessarily another person. There just has to be another, like, something tactile. Tactile. God damn, why can't I talk today? Shut up. Tactical. I need something tactical.
You need something tactical. You need a map. You need, like, a radar and...
Sonar.
Sonar.
Sometimes it's dark. You gotta have sonar.
Fair enough. Now, do you have any advice to people who have completely cut off their sex life because they have children?
I don't know about advice. It's not a good idea. I know it's not a good idea because I've done that and it's not fun. Whenever you were pregnant with Logan, I've never been a fan of sex while pregnant. Not my thing. Just, it weirds me out, and that probably sounds selfish and immature and like it's a, what'd you call it?
A bad thing?
Well, no. Well, yeah, a bad thing. But like it's I'm worried about looks and shit like that. Like
Vanity.
Yeah, like it's a vain thing. And it's not that. It's just I know that my kid is in there.
There's another person in there.
It's the worst threesome ever. You know, it's just that's not. And in the moment, you're not exactly thinking about it. But then there was that one time I just kind of happened to look down. And it was while you were pregnant with Logan, and he just kind of pushed up somehow, and I saw your stomach move, and that was it. You know, it was like, I can't do this.
You don't want to poke your son in the head?
It just adds that thing in the back of my mind, and if my brain turns on, it's not turning off. That's just going to keep going over and over and over again, and I can't deal with that.
I mean, for every married couple, there is going to be a dry spell, you know, because once you're pregnant, if you don't like having sex while, you know, people are pregnant, and the women go through that too. You feel like a cruise ship.
But see, some go the other way too, where they can't get enough of it. I
did not. I love Logan with all of my fibers of my beings. And I say that because, you know, the voices. But I hated being pregnant. I hated it. There was very few times that I found joy in being pregnant. And that is, I am in the minority.
No, see, I don't think you're in the minority. I think that more people say they love their pregnancy than actually did.
Well, no, because I know people that really like being pregnant, and they have good.
That's what you're supposed to say, and I think there's a lot of people that think that.
And a lot of people do have fun when they're pregnant. You
had fun when you were pregnant too, but you didn't like it overall, and I think that's what people are lying about.
Maybe. It wasn't all bad, but ugh. But having like the thought of, if I can't tie my own fucking shoes because my belly's so big, or when you feel bloated, or, you know, the fact that you do, like, I had a bit, like, I was big. When I was, like, 6 months pregnant, people thought I was, like, due tomorrow. And we got our taxes done, and the guy was like, oh, so when are you due? I was like, oh, well, I'm only 6 months. He goes, like, it was bad. Pregnant. And, you know, when you're that big, you don't want to have sex. Or I did not want to have sex because I felt so big. But, you know, that's going to cause dry spells. That, you know, if there's any medical conditions that you have to stop for, there's going to be times where you have to stop. And that's fine. But I think completely cutting off your sex life and not actually making that time, regardless if you have a support system like family to drop off kids with, you know, if you are not making that time, if you are... And I'm totally against co-sleeping. I'm 100% against co-sleeping. Period. They have their own beds. They make beds for smaller people. Get them... Ugh. Just... No. Whatever reason, you need to make time. You need to, it just like, self-care. Going back to that, you make time for yourself. You make time to better yourself. You have to make that time to better your relationship and have that connection. And, if there's been a dry spell, like after I had Logan,
I was super gun shy after that.
Yeah. Like you have to wait a certain amount of time before you have sex again after you have a child. And then I had an IUD put in, so we had to wait even longer than the normal.
Well, even then it didn't.
Allotted time.
It wasn't like right back to it either because I was still like, that was kid number 4. I am not wanting to take any chances of anything failing or what the fuck ever. And then that Joe Rogan stands up popped into my head like, no, I pulled out. Your friends are lying to you. Like, that scared the fuck out of me. Yeah. And it still does to a certain extent, but it's just like, fuck it, whatever. I need to get laid. As primal and as dude bro as that is, I have to get laid on a regular basis. Otherwise, I am just a miserable fucking person. Period. Because jerking off doesn't do it. I could jerk off 3 times a day and still be in a shitty mood. But that one sex session fixes it, and it doesn't matter how long it is, if we're able to like really get into it, or it's just one of those, okay, we've got about 20 minutes before we need to be asleep. Let's get this out real quick. And that's something else that people don't want to talk about. They act like it has to be like this big, elaborate thing. And it's just like, you got to take the time when it's available. If you have 20, 30 minutes, you don't necessarily have to fuck. Just
mess around.
Get into it. You know what I mean?
Mess around. Make out with your husband or your wife. Like, just get into it. You don't have to
create that desire that was once there.
You don't. It doesn't have to be this big thing. If all you have time for because of work schedules or how many kids you have.
Size.
Huh?
I said you said it was a good size.
Shut up. If you have crazy work schedules or just crazy, like we have 4 kids. So sometimes we don't even have 20, 30 minutes. Sometimes our sex life is based on quickies. Like,
well, our quickie is still like
at least 15 minutes.
Yeah.
At least.
And I'm not trying to toot my own horn with that. It's just...
No, that's just how we are. But I think it's imperative to make time for that. I mean, obviously, you still want to have deep, meaningful conversations with your spouse, your partner. Shut the fuck up. You still want to have things in common and, have common interests. You don't have to have every interest the same. Like, you watch wrestling fucking how many days a week? And,
It's about to be more.
Yeah, I mean, I like wrestling, but you like that more than I do. We don't have to have common interests, like all the same thing.
But as a vast majority, you're into wrestling, quote unquote.
Yes.
It's the same way I'm into like Grey's Anatomy. I don't watch the shit, but I know way more about it than somebody that doesn't watch the shit.
No, I'm way more into wrestling than you are into Grey's Anatomy.
I will say that, but I at least have a knowledge of the shit to where you like, oh, well, this person did this, and I'm like, oh, well, that was the one that da-da-da-da-da. Mm-hmm. I've never watched an episode of the shit, but I still know that.
But just like you want to have that meaningful intellectual connection with your partner, I think it's imperative that you have that physical
physical connection,
physical, sexual, baser, visceral fuck sessions. Like you need to have that. I think
you need to get taken a pound down occasionally.
Yeah, obviously, yes. We can't do it in the living room in the middle of the day anymore because we have children.
We were never really able to do that.
Well, yeah, this is true.
Well, before you got pregnant with Logan, because the older 3 would go with Mandy. So we would have it then, but even then, we're exhausted from the week we just had with the 3 before you got pregnant with Logan.
This is true.
So it's just kind of like, well, do we want to do that, or do we want to just
sleep,
veg out, and watch shows or movies or something that we don't get to do? Now it's a little bit easier because we can watch not adult movies, but
a little more mature
movies, because the older 2 will sit down and watch them with us. The younger 2 do whatever the fuck they want most of the time anyway, so that's not really a big issue now, but before it was, because they would always want to spend all their time with us, so we had to change what we were doing
Yes.
in order to accommodate them. And it's the same thing with the sex thing. There were plenty of times where we were just like looking at each other across the room, just like, motherfucker.
They won't go to sleep. I want to do you now, and we can't do that.
No. And that's gone away to the vast majority of the time, but there's still those moments where it's just like, we got to do something. Like, right the fuck now. I'm going to start fucking the wall, and this is not okay.
You know, I really think that that's an important part. And I think it should be something that everyone should be comfortable talking about. Because no one talks about it.
But see, you say that, and you were not comfortable with it.
No, I wasn't, but...
Even whenever you were at your most sexually open before we got together, you were not like that.
No, but I think that comes with... I mean, unfortunately, we have children that are growing. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just hard to watch your children get older. But we have to start preparing them. And we are open and honest, not graphic, but we are open and honest with our children.
Like, yeah, sex can be great, but you need to wait as long as possible. It's the same thing that me and Gabriel tell Chris. Mm-hmm. Like, sex is amazing. It is if God made anything better, he kept it for his goddamn self. Sorry, the irony just...
Yes, gotcha.
But as a guy, once you have it, it consumes you from that point forward. You get it once and you're like, I need to figure out how to get that again. And again, and again, and again. Like Ron White talks about, once you've seen one set of titties, you want to see the rest of them. Even if they're old bikers, you don't give a shit. You're like, all right, roll them up. It's just, as a guy, it's so hard to not be sexual all the time.
After you get it that first time.
Well, not even that. Maybe once you hit a certain point in your life before you even have sex, it's everything is like, there's bikini-clad women on TV. Everything's overly sexualized.
Which is a whole other
and
issue.
It made it way worse whenever we were kids, because I've always loved wrestling. You just talked about that. It was so fucking sexual whenever we were kids.
Yeah, it was a lot worse.
It was ridiculous. Like, you couldn't even watch wrestling without, like, getting a hard on and like, God, I want to fuck her. And like,
that's a whole other societal issue.
But now, I mean, you look at wrestling now, for example, and they've toned it the fuck down. They're still very attractive women. I would argue more attractive as a whole than they were back then.
Yeah.
No, not because of the slutty thing. I've always loved the slutty thing. That's my bread and butter. Dig the fuck out of that. But you're not thinking about it in the same context. And it's not that I'm not as sexual of a person. It's just the way that they're presenting it. Everything, it's been toned down a little bit. Whereas everything else has been ramped the fuck up. Whenever you listen to music and, watch music videos and stuff like that, it's gone the other way. Whereas it wasn't super sexualized back then, now it is.
Yeah.
And wrestling's gone the opposite. They were super sexualized to get everybody in and get their claws in, the preteens and teenagers in my generation. And now that they got all of them, they're like, oh, well, they're having kids now. Let's tone it down.
Let's tone it down and show that, women are people and have talent.
They aren't people.
Shut up.
They're fuckholes put here for my amusement.
No, that's awful.
I'm joking, by the way.
I know you are.
Mostly. There's a little bit of truth to that.
It depends on the day, on the day.
Yeah.
But I think, back to what, I was saying, it is an important part of your relationship care. And that's what I'm just going to call it. I don't know what else to call it. But it's, people talk about self-care. That is part of your relationship.
Your fuck care.
Your fuck care. Is that covered under insurance or?
Oh, that would be awesome. Just go to the doctor and be like, Doc, I need to get laid. I'm like, okay.
Could you imagine the old wrinkly doctor?
I ain't talking about dudes, motherfucker. There's women doctors too.
Not the one here.
Although it depends on how long the dry spell is. If it's like, oh, fuck it. All right, cool.
Good thing we don't have dry spells like that.
Not anymore. I mean, like, right after you got Logan, there was, but I mean, since then, it hadn't really been too bad. Outside of whenever you're on your period, just because I'm not that guy anymore. I get laid on a regular basis. I don't have to fuck through blood anymore. I can take a break for a week, whatever it is.
Yeah. But I just think that everyone should be able to talk to it. I mean, if you don't want to be public about it, of course you're not going to post on social media, oh, need to get laid, or...
I do appreciate those people, though.
I know you do.
I like to live vicariously through other people's slutty antics. I don't know why.
I don't know either.
I'm not a slut anymore, so somebody has to be. Just tell me about it. I'm not going to jerk off in front of you about it.
No one can see me shake my head.
Nah, I can hear the pee rattling around.
Shut up. But you need to at least be able to have these kinds of conversations with your partner. Because for a long time, I wouldn't talk about sex with you. I mean, not as much, not into the depths that we talk about it
No, you
now.
really didn't at all.
Like, I didn't. And I don't know why. I just thought it was, like, too...
It's not something you talk about. That's not fucking true. It's not something you talk about if that's how you're taught. It's not something to talk about.
You don't talk about it with, like, your grandparents or your...
But see, that situation's never presented itself. I might do that.
I wouldn't.
Not in graphic detail, but...
I don't have grandparents. I mean, in a family tree, yes, grandparents are present, but I do not have grandparents. I don't really have a family, really. I mean, family tree family, not adopted family. Adopted? In-law?
You have in-law and... I wouldn't call it adoptive because we just kind of made it. It's not
created family.
Yeah.
You know, so obviously that...
We're the Avengers. We assemble.
Yeah. Yeah. My family and our family is, more like a IKEA table. Some assembly is required.
No, it's way more sturdy than that. We cut out all the fucking
extra
useless
screws.
bullshit.
Wait, that was a bad...
Well, I mean, that too. But
the extra pieces.
Yeah, like, it's just, the family that we have now, we could sit down and have the conversation that you and I are having right now. You know, we could sit down with Mandy and Gabriel and Bubba and Crystal and Jimmy and Ariel, and we can all talk sexually, not
details,
not dirty or anything like that, but just have a conversation about sex and it not be taboo
or awkward. Or
I mean, I've walked in on Bubba and Crystal having sex. In our younger days, I walked in on Jimmy and Gabriel, and it's just like, it's not a big deal to me. To a lot of other people, it is an issue.
Crystal's gonna be so mad at you for bringing that up.
Okay. There was one other time we're not going to bring up, but
we all know that time.
And it's so funny.
It's
oh God,
so great.
Like, well, you told us. Like, I didn't think. Whatever. Anyway, she's gonna be so mad.
That was a birthday I will never forget.
I forgot what my point was.
I don't even know.
But we can have conversations with our friends about it. You know, like, we can talk about it, and if there's issues or if we're trying to figure something out,
we can pull one of them aside and be like, hey.
And be like, hey, we're going, have you ever or whatever. And I
just think it's something that we should be able to talk about.
But first and foremost, you should be able to talk to your spouse about that. And if you're feeling unwanted or undesirable or unattractive or whatever, that's a conversation you need to have with your significant other, because you and I have had those conversations on a regular basis.
You know, so just in general, to kind of sum up,
the general summation.
Sex is important. No, again, it is not the sole basis of your relationship. And if it is, you need to go to like marriage counseling, couples counseling. You need to figure something out, because sex should not be the anchor and the rock of your relationship. But on the other side of that, you need it. As not only as
need to get taken to Pound Town occasionally.
Yes.
As a woman.
Or as a dude, whatever your preference, whatever you are into, be into. As long as it is consensual and with
not
adults.
With kids or animals.
Or animals, yes.
You shouldn't be fucking horses. I don't care how many videos you've seen. It's not a good thing. I've jerked off to it once. I felt bad about it.
Well, yeah. But you need that. It is an important part of your being. You want to feel wanted and desired, and obviously you want to have sex. That is a natural thing for us to want, We want to have sex. We want to feel those feelings, and it feels great. So you should be able to find time and make the time. That is so important, to make the time for your partner, for yourself. And you really, really, really need to be able to talk about it too. Because especially if you're a parent, obviously you're not going to tell your children about your escapades, but they're going to have questions.
Depends on how much you want to mortify them.
Ugh. No.
That's one of the things I love about Chris. He's just like, but then he's like, whatever.
Yeah, but we don't get too graphic with him. So
there was a couple of times where it was just like,
I don't want to know.
It wasn't like super graphic, but it was just one of those things, and you just see that look on his face, like, and those are the times that I feel accomplished. Because it's like getting me to cringe.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to make me go, oh, dude, for real?
This is true. Make the time. Just like...
do the anal with no lube, because it shows you care.
Okay, I wouldn't take it that far, but whatever.
You've taken it that far.
Not without lube.
That's not true.
Oh, wait, yeah.
That's not remotely true.
Never mind. Anyway.
Get a nice...
No. That's... no.
I'm pretty sure...
No. Don't listen to him. He's not telling the truth.
You were drunk.
Yeah, but it wasn't that. No, it was not. Anyway, away from the point.
Oh,
time.
I made you uncomfortable again.
Yes, but make the time. Make the time to be physical, even if it's more on the self side.
No, not necessarily that. Just like, obviously pay attention. Make sure your kids aren't watching, because I'm very good about that. I grope you on a regular basis, and you do not like it necessarily all the time.
There's only one part of that I don't like.
I know. But I always make sure that the kids aren't around, because I tell you pretty much on a daily basis, I'm sorry I find my wife sexually attractive, because you get irritated with me groping you all the time. And I don't do it to irritate you all the time. Sometimes it is to irritate you. But I do it because I like fucking my wife. I like groping my wife and touching my wife. It's something that I enjoy doing.
I like you fucking your wife too.
Why did you say it in third person?
I don't know. Because that's how you said it.
I was directing it towards you, though.
I was just trying to be funny. Obviously, it failed.
Oh, okay. You should try harder.
Well, maybe next time. But yes, just as a whole, be more vocal about your wants and needs with your partner. You should be able to talk to them about it. And you should not completely cut off your sex life just because you're a parent. You are still a person. You're still a man. You're still a woman.
If you want to do weekend gangbangs, that's fine.
Don't do weekend gangbangs.
Why?
I don't know.
Sometimes you want to get double-ended like a fucking Chinese finger trap. And
Maybe.
It's fine. You just got to carry that balance and make sure that your kids ain't home for that necessarily. Because that's the last thing you want them to walk in on. Try to explain why daddy and some dude that they don't know is inside their mother at the same time. It's just not a good idea.
That would be so bad. Anyway.
Did you just get a visual?
I did. That would just be bad. That would just be so bad. But again, that's my biggest piece of advice, and I think I can speak for you on this. Just make the time for it. Make the time for it. You have to. That's an important part of your relationship, and to feel that connection and have that connection with your partner. Just make the time, whether you want to or not. And if you don't want to, then there's some other underlying thing. So get that fixed. But, so if anyone's still listening, I hope you are.
Hi, Crystal. Hi, Gabby.
Hello. Share, like, subscribe. Share this one twice. Go ahead and do that so we can make everyone uncomfortable. But follow us on Twitter, To Raise a Child.
We're on iTunes. We're
Thank
on
you.
Podbeam, Stitcher, anywhere you can get your podcast from.
Thank you for sticking with us on this one. But until then, keep fucking.